and mode for various, over to page 5, baby. So we've learned how you can use mean, median, and mode for a variety of different things, including being shady, right? You're in the... So today, we are going to start a conversation about how it's very helpful not just to know about the middle of the data, like your mean, median, mode, and range, but it's often very helpful to find out how spread out your data are as well. We need to go here. Okay, and I'll go ahead and tell you guys that this page right here is probably going to be the one that I choose for your first notebook quiz. So you want to make sure that you've got these taken care of. For sure. So make sure you've got everything on this page, okay? So how many of you guys are in civics class? Probably a lot of you guys. Has your civics teacher talked to you yet about the citizenship test? Okay, so we noticed, great, that's awesome. So we noticed citizenship test is the test that when somebody immigrates, they have to pass that test in order to be able to be a U.S. citizen. Sadly, there are tons of us that are born here who don't know anywhere close to the important information that's on the citizenship test, even though we were naturally born here. And unfortunately, they don't know a lot of really important government concepts that are covered. So the legislator, I don't know if this part was a great idea or not, but they have passed a law that says that you must, so they've passed a law that says that you must pass the citizenship test in order to graduate from high school in the state of Kentucky. So it's 100 multiple choice questions. You have to get 60 out of the 100 correct in order to be able to graduate from high school. So we're taking care of that this year in civics class for the most part. So soon, I don't know exactly when, but pretty soon, you're going to be taking a pre-test over that citizenship test. Now, why would your civics teachers give you a pre-test, like give you a test ahead of time before you take it for real? Exactly. So they can find out what you need to know, what they actually need to teach you based on what you already know. So I know you guys haven't taken it yet, but last year, Ms. DeWeese was kind enough to provide me with the data that she got when she had given the pre-test to her second period class. And we used it in order to, is that the notebook right there? Okay, cool. And we used it in order to kind of show you how it's important to sometimes understand like how spread out your data is. Before we can talk about how to analyze it though, we've got to understand how to actually like read. We're going to construct something called a box plot that helps you to see how spread out your data is. And so we'll talk about how to use it after I show you what all the pieces are. For today, we're pretty much just identifying the different components of what a box plot is, and then we'll talk more about how you might actually use it in real life later. So the first thing is that we've got to have the pieces of information that go into that box plot. So I've taken the scores that she had from her second period, already put them in order from least to greatest for you. Yes, sir. What you're doing in APHG too. So the first thing we got to do is get them in order from least to greatest, which I've already done for you so that we're not spending time with that. So now use the highlighters, the pen, all the different color tools that you have at the top of your class kick, and pick whatever color you want. You don't have to use the same color that I'm using, but I'm going to choose orange. And the first step is that we have to identify the median of this set of data. So there are 15 scores that we have on here in order from least to greatest. So we know that we're going to have... Yeah, you are. Yep. I was double checking for you. Can you see okay?
Somewhat.
Oh. So we're going to start. So because it's only got 15 scores, that's an odd number of numbers. So I know I'm going to have just one number in the middle. And I've already kind of done the pre-counting. I know that right there is my median. So you guys, please label. Do exactly what I'm doing, pretty please. Add a text box or use the pen, whichever one. Designate that you know that that's the median, because this is going to be your notes that are going to help you when you go to study. Typically, this is the notes that the people walk in knowing the least about. Although I was kind of surprised. A few people last period actually knew how to do a box plot. That doesn't typically happen. So we need to identify our median. 5th grade? Woo, that's different. A lot of people haven't seen it. So after we've identified the median, then we need to look at the lower half of our data set. So I'm talking about these numbers that are here in blue. And we need to identify, I'm going to zoom in here. We need to identify the, oh, wrong color. I want to put it in the same color. The median. Add yourself a text box, please, so that you have an explanation here. A median of the lower half of the data. What number is in the middle of that lower half of the data? Where's the number in the middle? We got 7 numbers down there. Where's the median? Which one's in the middle of all that?
15.
Yep. Fit. Yes. No, you're absolutely right. 15. So we're going to put a box around that 15. Identify that as the median. You can go ahead and add a text box if you want to for the median of the lower half. But here, the part I'm getting ready to write above it is the part you really need to make sure you have. There's a word that we use to represent the median of the lower half. So this is called a lower quartile. Is that, I heard a lot of people go, oh, like, so now we've heard this word before? Yay. I know we all came from different background experiences in math classes. Some of us have learned some of these things that others of us haven't. So that median of the lower half of the data is called a lower quartile. We're going to see where that name comes from in a second. And one thing that really drives me crazy about math people sometimes is that we have a tendency to give like 8 different names to the same stuff. And this is one of those cases. It's called a lower quartile. It's also called, and you definitely need to know this, a Q1 is the other word for it. So that 15 is our lower quartile. You good? We also call it a Q1. So you definitely need a text box right above this 15. Label it as the lower quartile, also known as a Q1. So if we go to all the trouble to find the median of the lower half of the data, what do you think we're probably going to do with the upper half of the data? Find the median there as well, right? So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom out, but y'all tell me if anybody needs me to zoom back in. So now I'm going to turn my attention, and actually I'm going to do a color that stands out a little bit more than that. I'm going to turn my attention now to the upper half of the data. We found the median of the lower half. Now we need to find the median of the upper half of that data. What number is in the middle? 26. Great, yep. So this is our median of our upper half of the data. And instead of a lower quartile, it's called an upper quartile. Just add a little text box up there to identify it, please and thank you. And instead of a Q1, we call this one a Q3. I love that you asked that question. Why is that? It's because, and I'm going to zoom out here for a moment, technically the median is also known as the Q2. We never call it that. But the reason it skips from Q1 up to Q3 is because we use the median frequently. We technically call it Q2 even though nobody ever says that. So that upper quartile, the median of our upper half is our Q3. And then finally, the last piece of important information is that we need to identify the smallest number in our data set. What's the smallest number up there? 6. That also has a special word, but it makes sense. That is our minimum, because that's the smallest number up there. And last but not least, the biggest number up there. What do you think we're going to call that one? The maximum, exactly. Hopefully this is ringing a bell for some of us. Even if you kind of forgot temporarily, hopefully you've at least heard this now that we're... So I'm going to zoom out there for a second so that we can see where all... Anybody need me to zoom in on any particular part? So those are the 5 numbers that you use in order to build a box plot. So now we're going to build that box plot. Hello. Now we're going to build that box plot on that number line using these 5 pieces of information. So it's a box plot because it starts off with a box. Is everybody okay if I zoom in on the number line now? Anybody writing anything still up here in the top? I'm kind of trying to look over your all shoulders and make sure I haven't lost anybody. Were you saying no, like don't zoom?
Yeah. Why are we working? Is it too late for me to start doing this?
No, it's not too late. You can, well, I'll get you a copy of it. Just go ahead and get logged in and everything, and you'll be good. All right. So everybody okay if I go ahead and zoom in?
What's the thing in the red?
In the red, that's the minimum.
Oh, okay. I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else? Everybody else good? All right. So it's a box plot. We need a box, okay? The way that you decide where the sides of the box are you use the lower quartile and you use the upper quartile. So I'm going to zoom in. The lower quartile is 15, right? And the upper quartile is 26. So I'm going to zoom in, and the left side of my box is going to be at 15, where that Q1 is. And the right side of my box is going to be at 26, where that upper quartile is. I've got it color-coded so you can kind of see what goes with what. Okay. Is that one of mine? Just trade it out for another one for right now, please, ma'am. So, and then we're going to connect it with, actually make the box. And I'm a horrible artist. Hopefully your box looks a little better. If it doesn't, okay, you can grab another one up there, baby. So the left side of your box is your lower quartile. The right side of your box is the upper quartile. And the median and then there's a little line that goes inside that's right there for the median. So you're going to make a box. The left side of the box is your lower quartile. The right side of the box is your upper quartile. And then the median is going to be a line that's like right inside that box. And then last but not least, we are going to extend. There are going to be these little lines that kind of go out to the side. And they go all the way out to the minimum and the maximum. So you're going to put a little dot above that minimum, which was right there at 6. You're going to put a dot right there above the maximum, which was at 43. Oh, sorry. I just apologized to the table. And extend the line just like that. I'm going to zoom in. So we should have those 5 numbers labeled. Most of your classwork for today is just going to be using this right here. You're going to be given a box plot, and you're going to be asked to identify the upper quartile, identify those pieces, basically. That's what most of your classwork is just can you pick out where the minimum is? Can you pick out what the maximum is? So it's literally just looking at this picture and seeing like where each little data point is. So these are all called quartiles, right? What number do we think of when we think of the word quartile? Like quarters, we think of 4, right? The reason these are called quartiles is because take a look at how if you look at the way the box plot is laid out now, see how you have like one section and then another section and then another section, and then it's like divided up into, now they're not equal parts, but it's divided up into 4 sections of the box. What that is doing is it's taking all those scores, and again, right now you're like, what the heck is the point of this? Tomorrow we're going to actually talk about like how you use this. Today I just want you to know how to read it. But what those quartiles do is they break it up so all the test scores for the kid in Ms. DeWeese's second period class, it divides them up into 4 chunks. 4 is a quarter. That's why they're called quartiles. What percent is a quarter, is a fourth? 20, what did I hear? 25, right. So technically, each one of these little sections, and this will be important for your classwork too, so write this down, please. Each little section has 25% of your data in it. You can write, if you want to do it like over the top of it, I don't really care as long as you understand what it means. Because I know you don't have a lot of space in there, do you? If you want to like add a text box underneath it and add an arrow or something, that's fine too. So the big idea for that is each section, so there's 4 sections. Sorry about that serial killer handwriting there. Is a fourth of your data. So 25% of your data. And then the other big idea is that a bigger section does not, add a text box because this is really important, mean more numbers. So what I mean by that, for example, is this section right here is by far like the widest section, right? It's by far the widest. It doesn't mean that more kids' scores are in that section. It just means it's more spread out. And again, we're going to talk about that more tomorrow about how you actually read it. So the bigger section does not mean more numbers. What it actually means is that just those numbers are more spread out. If you were to actually look at each individual number across the top, you'll see a fourth of them were there, a fourth are there, a fourth are there. It's just whether or not it's spread out. So for Ms. DeWeese, for a teacher that's looking at this, this is pretty, it's pretty spread out. You've got the maximum. You've got one kid who got 43 points right, who's already pretty close to passing that darn test already. Then you've got another kid who apparently his or her family doesn't really talk about politics very much or the system, so they don't have as much background knowledge. So the reason for a teacher it might be important to know this information is because it's a little harder when not everybody knows the same stuff, right? Because some of you are going to be sitting here like, I already know how to do this, where others don't know how to do it. And so it makes it more challenging for the teacher when it's very spread out like that. So putting it in a format, in a graph that's really easy to read, like you can look at that and be, ah, crap, this is pretty spread out. That's really useful information for the teacher because she knows that she's probably going to need to do something a little different because we're not all on the same page. Half of us are already close to passing the test while the other half of us are not. Okay, give me 1 second, please.